My mother took the microphone out of the DJ's hand during my first dance, tapped it twice to make sure it was live, and told 200 of our closest family and friends that I was not really her daughter anymore. 3 words. That's all it took to turn the best night of my life into the worst one, in front of caterers still carrying trays of champagne. What she didn't know, what nobody but my husband and I knew, was that 11 days earlier, she'd said something on a voicemail she thought she'd deleted. Something that, once my husband played it back through that same microphone 40 seconds later, would end her marriage of 31 years, cost her a job, and turn her into the villain of her own family for good. This is the story of the night my mother tried to publicly erase me, and the recording that erased her instead. My name is Melissa. I'm 29, and until 11 months ago, I thought my mother and I had a complicated but ultimately repairable relationship. I was wrong about the repairable part. Growing up, my mother, Diane, ran our house like a business with one client, herself. Every conversation eventually became about her stress, her sacrifices, her opinion on a decision that was never actually hers to make. When I got engaged to my now husband, Daniel, 2 years ago, I genuinely believed it would be a moment she'd be happy for me. Instead, her first question was whether Daniel's family was the kind of family that would embarrass us. That sentence should have told me everything I needed to know about what was coming. Daniel comes from a working-class background. His father drives a delivery truck. His mother cleans houses for a living. To Daniel, these are the 2 hardest-working, kindest people he's ever known. To my mother, from the very first dinner she had with them, they were a problem to be managed and, ideally, hidden. She didn't say this outright, not at first. She said it in smaller ways, suggesting we hold the wedding somewhere more upscale than the venue Daniel's parents had generously offered to help pay for. Asking, more than once, whether Daniel had options beyond his current job as an electrician, as if being an electrician were a temporary embarrassment rather than a skilled trade he was proud of. Referring to his parents, in front of my own extended family, as salt of the earth. A phrase she delivered with a smile and a tone that made it very clear she meant something closer to beneath us. I confronted her about it exactly once, about 4 months before the wedding. I asked her directly if she had a problem with Daniel's family. She looked at me and said, "I just want better for you than what they can give you. Not, I want you to be happy. Better." As if love and stability were consolation prizes for people who couldn't afford anything nicer. I told Daniel about that conversation that same night. He held my hand and said something I've thought about constantly since the wedding. "Your mom is allowed to have opinions. She's not allowed to have a microphone." Neither of us knew, at the time, exactly how prophetic that sentence would turn out to be. 11 days before the wedding, my phone rang while I was in the middle of a dress fitting, and I let it go to voicemail. It was my mother, and given how the last few months had gone, I wasn't in a hurry to call her back that day. When I finally listened to it that night, I realized she hadn't actually meant to call me at all. The message started mid-sentence, the way voicemails do when someone's phone accidentally dials while it's still in their pocket or purse. What I heard was my mother's voice, clearly mid-conversation with someone else, saying, "Honestly, I don't care if it ruins the wedding. I am not standing up there and pretending I'm fine with this. Everyone needs to know what kind of family she's marrying into before it's too late to stop it." A second voice, my Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, responded, "Diane, you cannot do that at her wedding. That's insane." My mother's response, word for word, because I have listened to this recording more times than I can count. "Watch me. I'll take that microphone and I will tell every single person in that room exactly what I think, and there's nothing she or that electrician can do to stop me." The message cut off there, 14 seconds. A pocket dial, a voicemail she clearly never intended to leave, and based on everything that happened afterward, never realized existed. I sat on the bathroom floor and listened to it 4 more times, and here's the part that I think surprises people the most when I tell this story. I didn't panic. I didn't call her screaming. I saved the voicemail to 3 separate devices, forwarded it to my own email as a backup, and then I called Daniel. He listened to it in complete silence twice, and then he said something I'll never forget. "She just told us exactly what she's going to do. We'd be fools not to be ready for it." We had 11 days. We spent them doing something my mother would never have imagined either of us capable of. Nothing. We didn't confront her. We didn't warn her we knew. We planned the wedding exactly as scheduled, smiled through the final vendor calls, and let her walk toward the one mistake she had explicitly told her sister she was going to make. The wedding day itself was, for the first several hours, genuinely perfect. The kind of day you plan for a year and then watch disappear faster than you expect. My mother behaved herself through the ceremony, through the photos, through the first hour of the reception. If anything, she was almost too pleasant, which in hindsight should have told me she was saving herself for a bigger stage. That stage came during the first dance. Daniel and I were about 90 seconds into our song when the DJ, visibly confused, handed the microphone across the dance floor. Because my mother had walked directly up to him mid-song and asked for it, and in the split-second confusion of a stranger being handed a live mic by the mother of the bride, nobody stopped her in time. She tapped it twice. The feedback screech cut through the room before she even started talking, which meant every single head turned before she'd said a word. "I need everyone to know something," she said, and her voice had that particular calm that's somehow more unsettling than yelling. "I've tried to be supportive of this marriage, but I can't stand up here and pretend anymore. Melissa is marrying beneath what this family built. And as of tonight, I want it known, she is not really my daughter anymore. Not the way I raised her to be." 200 people went completely silent. I remember the sensation of every eye in the room landing on me at once, and I remember, very specifically, not crying, because underneath the humiliation, one single thought was running through my head on a loop. 11 days. Daniel didn't grab the microphone from her. He walked over, calmly, and asked her, loud enough for the room to hear, "Diane, are you finished?" She said, "I am." "Good," he said, "because I think everyone deserves to hear the rest of what you had planned to say tonight in your own words." He pulled out his phone, connected it through the sound system's auxiliary input that our wedding planner had, thankfully, set up for our first dance song and never disconnected, and pressed play. There is a specific silence that happens when 200 people recognize a voice they weren't expecting to hear, and it's different from the silence of shock. It's the silence of understanding landing all at once. Honestly, I don't care if it ruins the wedding. I am not standing up there and pretending I'm fine with this. Everyone needs to know what kind of family she's marrying into before it's too late to stop it. My Aunt Carol's voice tinny through the speakers. "Diane, you cannot do that at her wedding. That's insane." And then my mother's own voice, the one she just used 30 seconds earlier to disown me in front of the entire room, now playing back her explicit plan to do exactly that. Watch me. I'll take that microphone and I will tell every single person in that room exactly what I think, and there's nothing she or that electrician can do to stop me. The recording ended. Nobody in that room needed it explained to them. My mother hadn't stumbled into an emotional outburst. She'd announced her intentions to her own sister 11 days earlier, in detail, using almost the exact words she'd just used live. I watched her face change in real time, and if you've never seen someone's public narrative collapse in front of them in real time, I can tell you it happens in 3 stages. First, confusion, a half-second of genuinely not understanding what she was hearing. Second, recognition, the moment she placed her own voice and realized what this meant. Third, something closer to panic than anger, because up until that exact second, she had believed this recording didn't exist. My father, sitting at the head table, put his face in his hands. My Aunt Carol, who had clearly had no idea her own private phone call had been recorded and was about to be played to 200 people, stood up and walked out of the reception entirely, not in support of my mother, but because she looked, from where I was standing, genuinely mortified to be associated with any of it. My mother did not apologize. She said, into a microphone that Daniel had not yet taken back from her, that was a private conversation. Daniel's response, calm as anything. "So was this wedding until you decided otherwise?" He took the microphone from her hand, gently, handed it back to the DJ, and asked him to restart our song. And then, and I think this detail matters more than almost anything else in this story, he took my hand, and we finished our first dance in front of 200 people, while my mother stood alone in the middle of the dance floor, deciding what to do with her body in a room that had just watched her get caught in her own words. She left 11 minutes later. Nobody stopped her. I want to be honest about something most videos like this skip over. The fallout wasn't clean, and it wasn't instant, and for a while I genuinely regretted not confronting her before the wedding instead of letting it play out publicly. The first casualty was my parents' marriage. My father, it turned out, had known about my mother's plan. Aunt Carol had warned him 2 days before the wedding, and he told my mother, in his own words later, that if she did anything to embarrass this family, there would be consequences. He hadn't believed she'd actually go through with it. When she did, in front of his entire extended family and several of his own business colleagues who'd been invited, something in him seemed to break in a way that had nothing to do with me. They separated 4 months later. He told me, at a coffee shop meeting I still think about, that it wasn't really about the wedding. It was that the wedding made undeniable something he'd been quietly excusing for 31 years. The second casualty was her job. My mother worked as an office manager at a mid-sized accounting firm, and the firm's owner, who had, unfortunately for her, been one of the 200 guests at our wedding, since his son and Daniel had been childhood friends, apparently spent the following Monday fielding questions from staff who'd heard about the wedding thing through the extremely efficient grapevine that exists in any small industry. She wasn't fired outright, but she was quietly moved out of a client-facing role within 6 weeks and resigned entirely 4 months after that, reportedly telling a coworker she couldn't stand the way people looked at her now. Somewhere around month 3, my mother called me. Not to apologize, to ask if I would tell people the recording had been taken out of context. I told her I would consider it if she could explain what context would make. I'll tell everyone exactly what I think, and there's nothing she or that electrician can do to stop me, mean something other than exactly what it said. She hung up on me. I won't pretend that call didn't hurt. Some small part of me had been hoping, even after everything, that she'd call to actually say she was sorry. She never has. Not once, not in any form, in the 11 months since. Daniel and I are coming up on our 1-year anniversary in about 6 weeks, and I'd be lying if I said the wedding day doesn't still sit somewhere in the back of my mind on days when I'd rather it didn't. But something my therapist said early on has stuck with me more than almost anything else from this entire year. My mother didn't lose her family because a recording got played. She lost it the moment she decided, out loud, to a witness, that humiliating her own daughter mattered more than keeping her. The recording didn't do the damage. It just made the damage impossible to deny. My Aunt Carol and I have actually gotten closer since that night. She reached out about a month afterward, mortified, to apologize for her own part in the conversation, even though she tried to talk my mother out of it in real time. We have dinner every few weeks now. She's told me things about my mother's long pattern of controlling behavior that reframed a lot of my childhood in ways I'm still processing. My father and I talk most weeks now, more than we ever did before the wedding, which is a strange kind of silver lining I never expected. He's told me more than once that watching that recording play was the first time in 3 decades he saw clearly instead of around something. As for my mother, the last I heard, she moved 2 states away to live near her own sister, not Carol, but a cousin I'd never met. We haven't spoken since that phone call in month 3. Part of me still hopes, someday, for an actual apology, one that doesn't come with a request attached to it. But I've stopped waiting for it to shape how I live. Daniel and I are, for what it's worth, doing better than fine. His parents, the salt of the earth family my mother tried to erase me for choosing, walked me down half the aisle when my own mother refused to finish the ceremony that morning after a screaming match in the bridal suite over seating charts. I didn't even mention that fight earlier in the story because, frankly, by the time the microphone moment happened, it had already stopped surprising me. I've thought a lot about why I kept that recording instead of confronting my mother privately before the wedding, and I think the honest answer is this. I'd spent my whole life being told, in 100 small ways, that I was misremembering things, overreacting, making something out of nothing. A private confrontation would have given her room to do that one more time. A recording, played in her own voice, in front of witnesses, didn't leave any room for that at all. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. When someone shows you their intentions clearly, in their own words, believe them, and if you can, document it. Not because you're planning revenge, because you deserve proof of your own reality, even if you never end up needing it the way I did. Tell me in the comments what you would have done differently, confront her before the wedding, or let it play out the way I did. And if you want to hear what happened when my mother tried to show up at Thanksgiving 6 months later, uninvited, let me know, because that's its own story. Thanks for watching. I'll see